Night had fallen hard over the Mongol camp, a night thick with smoke, dust, and the aftertaste of fear. The enemy mercenary clan stormed the camp like shadows born from fire. Horses screamed. Warriors crashed into each other in the chaos. Flames licked the edges of tents as blades flashed in the darkness. In the middle of this chaos, Serenia stumbled. A collapsing wooden support smashed into her arm, sending her crashing to the ground. She gasped, clutching her burning wound. Dirt clung to her palms as she tried to rise. A shadow loomed over her. A mercenary horseman. His face masked, his blade dripping with the blood of a dozen Mongols. He stepped off his horse, boots sinking into the dirt, sword rising in both hands. Serenia froze. She tried to crawl backward, but her injured arm failed her. The mercenary lifted the blade higher, ready to end the life of the Khan's daughter. And then, a breath. A heartbeat. A blur. Marcus saw everything. He stood a short distance away, trembling, not from fear, but from something deeper. An instinct he didn't understand. A fire he didn't recognize. A promise he never made, but somehow felt bound to. He lifted the small Mongol training bow still clutched in his hands. His knuckles white. His breath sharp. The world around him faded, tents, flames, screams, all disappearing into silence. Only Serenia remained. Serenia, and the blade descending toward her. Marcus slid an arrow into place. For the first time in his life, his hands did not shake. He pulled the string. The bow creaked. His muscles burned. His eyes locked on the mercenary's throat. A single spark lit inside him, a mixture of fear, fury, loss, and something he didn't yet know how to name. The mercenary swung the blade. Marcus released. The arrow exploded from the bow. It cut through the smoky air with a sharp hiss, spinning, slicing, screaming across the battlefield. And then, a choked gasp. The mercenary staggered. The arrow had buried itself deep into his throat. He dropped the sword. Hands clawed at the arrow. Blood spilled between his fingers. He fell to his knees, then to the ground, motionless. Serenia stared, frozen, her chest rising and falling with ragged breaths. Marcus stood where he was, bow still raised, eyes wide with shock, not at the kill, but at the realization that he had done it. He had chosen to act. He had chosen to protect. He had chosen to fight. The Khan arrived in time to see the last heartbeat fade from the mercenary's body. He followed the path of the arrow, to Marcus. For a long, heavy moment, the Khan said nothing. He approached Marcus, eyes dark with surprise and something close to pride. He laid a firm hand on the boy's shoulder. "Tonight," he said in a low, steady voice, "you crossed your first line." Marcus swallowed hard, unable to speak. The Khan leaned closer. "One day, you will cross the last." Behind them, Serenia whispered, her voice trembling with gratitude. "You saved me, Marcus." And the boy who had lost his voice, lost his world, lost everything he ever loved, stood among fire and death, with an arrow still vibrating from the force of its release. For the first time, he did not feel like the helpless child in the drum. He felt like someone becoming something far more dangerous. Fade out. The smoke of the night attack still hung over the Mongol camp like the breath of some ancient beast. The fires had been put out, the wounded tended to, and the dead laid in silence, but the whispers had only begun. Marcus sat alone on an overturned water barrel, staring at his trembling hands. He could still feel the bowstring digging into his fingers. The shock in his bones when the arrow left him. The cold weight of taking a life. He hadn't slept. Serenia watched him from a distance. She wanted to approach, to speak, to thank him again. But she could see something inside him shifting. Like a storm gathering behind silent eyes. The sun rose red that morning. The elders whispered that a red sunrise meant spilled blood. They weren't wrong. A group of Mongol guards dragged a wounded enemy into the camp center. His armor was different, darker, marked with symbols Marcus had never seen. He was not Mongol. Not Roman. Something else. Khan stepped forward. No sword. No threat. Only presence. Why did your clan come? The Khan asked, voice low but sharp. The wounded man spat blood. You know why? He rasped. Khan shook his head calmly. No. I want to hear it. The enemy's eyes drifted, and stopped on Marcus. A crooked smile spread across his cracked lips. You hide him well, but we smelled him from the mountains. Marcus stiffened. Serenia stepped closer to her father, frightened by the way the man stared. Khan folded his arms. Why him? The mercenary coughed violently, each breath weaker than the last. He lifted a shaking hand and pointed at Marcus. The ring. Marcus instinctively clutched the ring on his right thumb. His father's ring. The last piece of home he carried. What about the ring? Khan demanded. The man's lips curled. That is no ordinary trinket. It bears the hawk emblem. The mark of the Roman Senate. Gasps rippled through the Mongol warriors. Khan's eyes narrowed, not in fear, but in realization. He spoke slowly. The Senate? A senator's son? The enemy laughed, a broken, choking sound. Not a senator, but a man who carried Roman secrets. Secrets worth killing for. Secrets worth hunting a child across mountains. Marcus felt the world tilt. His father? A man who spent days hammering iron and repairing tools? A simple blacksmith? Or was that a lie? Khan stepped closer to the dying man. What secrets? The man's breath rattled. He whispered something too faint to hear. Then his head fell sideways. And he collapsed into the dirt. Dead. Silence wrapped around the camp like a shroud. Serenia touched her father's arm. Father! Marcus isn't just a prisoner, is he? Khan didn't answer. He stared at Marcus, really stared. As if searching for something behind the boy's eyes. Marcus stepped backward. He didn't want this. He didn't want secrets, or symbols, or destinies. He wanted his family. He wanted the life he lost. But fate is cruel. Khan spoke quietly to his generals. We must double the guards. If the mercenaries want the boy, their leader will come next. The command spread across the camp. Warriors stationed themselves at every ridge. Bows drawn, eyes sharp. But Marcus was not thinking about the guards. Or the enemies. Or the camp. He was thinking about his father. The ring burned against his skin. That night, Marcus slipped away from the fires and wandered to the steep ridge overlooking the valley. Cold wind brushed his face. Below him, the Mongol camp flickered with torches. And then, he heard footsteps. Serenia sat beside him. You heard what that man said? She whispered. Marcus didn't look at her. You're not just a child they found in a drum, she said softly. There is more inside you than even you know. Marcus clenched the ring so tightly it hurt. Serenia glanced at it. Your father gave you something, not just gold. Something meant to protect you. Or to reveal you. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. Not because of the words. But because deep inside, he feared she was right. He had no voice to answer her. No way to explain his tangled grief. No way to say that he didn't want to be special. He wanted to be whole. Serenia gently reached for his hand. You saved me, she whispered. I won't let anyone take you. Marcus looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time since his family died, he felt something warm inside him. Trust. Serenia squeezed his hand once more before standing. Khan will ask you questions tomorrow. When he does, don't hide from the truth. The truth is the only thing that can save you now. She walked away, torches lighting her path. Marcus remained alone on the ridge. He looked at the ring. Its engraved hawk gleaming even in the moonlight. What secrets had his father carried? Why had he been hunted? Why him? The wind howled like a warning across the plains. And in that lonely night, Marcus understood one thing clearly. Whatever destiny this ring held, it was coming for him. Whether he wanted it or not. Night settled over the Mongol camp like a heavy cloak. The wind carried a strange tension, whispering through the horse rails and fluttering the edges of the tents. Marcus stood near the horse enclosure, one hand resting on a wooden post, sensing something wrong, something hiding in the silence. Then, a horn blast shattered the quiet. Sharp, violent, menacing. The enemy clan had returned. Not as shadows this time, but as a rolling wave of fury. Dozens of riders thundered down the ridge, torches blazing in their fists, flaming arrows streaking like burning comets across the sky. Warriors stumbled from their tents, grabbing swords, bows, shields, anything they could use. The Mongol camp transformed into a battlefield in seconds. Marcus didn't run. He didn't hide. He didn't freeze. He grabbed a long spear, so tall its shadow swallowed him, and sprinted straight toward the chaos. A warrior shouted, "Marcus! Stop! You're a child!" But Marcus didn't stop. Something inside him opened, a door that had remained shut his whole life. A rider charged at him, sword raised. Marcus slid under the horse, rolled through the dust, and drove the spear deep into the rider's ribs. The man fell, dead before he touched the ground. Another rider swung a curved blade. Marcus snatched a fallen shield and blocked the strike with a loud metallic crack. A second rider tried to trample him. Marcus sidestepped at the exact heartbeat, slammed the shield into the horse's flank, and sent the rider sprawling into the dirt. Marcus struck him down with a single blow. Mongol warriors froze mid-battle, staring. "That boy, he fights like a spirit, like something from another world." Before anyone could blink, another attacker lunged at Marcus. Marcus grabbed the man's wrist, twisted under his arm, and flipped him clean over his shoulder. The man hit the ground so hard dust shot up in a cloud. A giant warrior, broad as an ox, charged with a war hammer. Marcus backed up, step after step, until his heel hit a wooden cart. The giant roared and swung. Marcus ducked. The hammer crushed the cart into splinters. Marcus leapt, caught a hanging rope, swung upward and sailed behind the warrior, then kicked him square in the skull with both feet. The giant collapsed like a felled tree. Silence rippled through that corner of the battlefield. Even the Mongol veterans stopped fighting. A 12-year-old boy had taken down the strongest warrior on the field. But Marcus didn't notice their awe. He didn't hear the gasps. He didn't see the fear in the enemy's eyes. He only saw one thing. The enemy leader slipping into the darkness, retreating again. Marcus grabbed a fallen bough, drew an arrow, and fired. The arrow sliced past the leader's cheek and pinned his cloak to a tree. The leader jerked in shock, eyes wide, before tearing himself free and vanishing into the night. The remaining enemy fighters began to fall back, dragging their wounded with them. The battle faded. The flames dimmed. The camp slowly fell to silence. The Mongols didn't cheer. They didn't roar victory cries. They only stared at Marcus as if witnessing the birth of something they didn't understand. The Khan approached him slowly, eyes dark with calculation and awe. He placed a heavy hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Tonight," he said deeply, "a storm walked among us." Marcus stood still, chest heaving, hands shaking, a mix of fear, strength, and something he couldn't name. The Khan leaned closer. "You are more than fate intended. More than even our enemies can imagine." As Marcus walked back into the dim light of the remaining torches, warriors stepped aside for him, not out of pity, but out of respect. Not a prisoner. Not a lost boy. But something rising. Something powerful. Something unstoppable.